Hey guys, Steve at Top Guns. Today we wanted to make an educational video telling a little bit about the differences between single action versus double action. We're going to start off with the probably the simplest way to understand it, and that's with a revolver. And for the purposes today, I'm going to tell you that every gun that we're using right now has been cleared. And I am going to be dry firing them, but rest assured they've all been in my sight the whole time, and I personally cleared them. So today we're going to start off with a Ruger GP100, and we're going to talk about single action versus double action. So when you're firing a weapon, there are two actions that have to basically take place. The hammer has to get to the rear of the gun, and then it has to be let forward back to the front of the gun. If we are performing both of those actions with one trigger pull, so if I do this with one trigger pull and it performs both actions, then that is what's considered to be a double action pull, because I performed two actions with one pull. If I were to cock the weapon first, and now I pull the trigger and only release the trigger or the hammer forward, that's what's considered to be a single action pull. So again, double action versus single action. Now, what's the difference? Why would somebody want one over the other? A double action pull is a little bit of it takes more pressure or more pounds of pressure to discharge the firearm. So in essence, it's going to take the user a little more effort to discharge the firearm, which can arguably make it a tad bit safer. Now, a single action pull is going to take much less pressure. Now, as a result, that can allow the shooter to be more accurate, because we don't have this long pull, so we're not pushing or pulling or in any way affecting, hopefully, or at least impacting the muzzle much less. So the pointing of the muzzle, hopefully we're impacting it much less when we're firing it from a single action mode. So there's the single action with very little pressure, and of course the double action with more pressure. This is a gun that is capable of firing in both modes, single or double action, okay? From here, I'm going to show you two examples of guns that are not capable of shooting in both modes. We're going to stick with revolvers, and we're going to go to what appears to be kind of like an old cowboy gun. So this particular gun, if I were to try to pull the trigger, it would not fire. And that is the reason is this trigger is not capable of performing a double action pull. Instead, I must cock it every single time that I would like to discharge this firearm. It will not fire again. I have to cock it first, and then it's ready to charge again. All right, so here we have a single action only revolver. So single action only versus the other gun right now that we've looked at so far is a gun that performs both. Now we're going to move our way to another Smith & Wesson here, and this particular gun, as you notice, has no hammer. So there's nothing to cock on this gun. Every single pull on this particular weapon is a double action pull. I have to go through the long pull with this weapon. Now, why would somebody want a weapon that only shoots double action? Well, when you don't have a hammer, there's nothing to get caught up when you're pulling it out of a pocket or out of an ankle holster, out of a purse, wherever it is that you may be choosing to carry it. So often some of your smaller guns will be without a hammer, making them a double action only revolver, and then we'll talk about pistols here in a second. But in this case, a double action only revolver. So this is a great direction to go for someone that wants to be a little more safe, and B, they're not concerned about the single action pull. Their goal is to simply have something for close range, and not that you couldn't shoot at longer ranges, but mainly the main application would be close range, and you would be doing it with a double action pull. So from there we're going to move into semi-autos. I'm going to start off once again, this time with a gun that does shoot in both modes, single and double action. So once again, I have this time a Sig Sauer. This particular Sig Sauer will fire by me pulling the trigger, and it performed both actions. It cocked the hammer and let it go back forward as well. So that is what's called a double action pull. If I wanted to do a single action pull, I can cock the hammer, and now when I pull the trigger, it will discharge and it will do it from a single action pull. So all I had to do is function one action. On a semi-auto, typically if you have a gun that's capable of shooting both, once you have fired the first round, what's going to happen is you pull the trigger, the round discharges, the round goes out the front of the barrel, the pressure causes the slide to go back. When the slide goes back forward, it's going to leave the hammer cocked, and every pull after that would then be a single action pull. So it would be the kind of just a quick little tap, and it'll recycle and do everything once again. So that would be a double action first pull and a single action pull on every subsequent pull. You could also cock it on the first pull on this particular firearm. So that is the way this firearm works. It does do both single and double action. From there, we have some semi-automatics once again, all right? On this particular semi-automatic, it is a single action only. So let me show you, kind of like the Revolver that looked kind of like the cowboy gun a second ago. This particular gun will not fire with the hammer down. So it will not do a double action pull. This particular firearm, which is considered a 1911 style firearm, if you were to cock the weapon, now the weapon will discharge. It will throw the round out the front of the barrel. The slide will then use the back pressure to recycle, and then it's going to leave us in a cocked position again. So now we're in a position where it's ready to discharge again. So we would simply pull the trigger again, and so forth until you run out. That is a single action only firearm. Okay. From there, we're going to look at one last type of system that we've not discussed yet. If you look at some firearms, they have no hammer, and it's hard to really classify them as a double or a single action. Glock initially called it a striker fire, or a safe action is what they called it. Many will argue this is a double action pull. The reality is the striker in here, it's not using a hammer, it's using a striker, and around the striker there's a spring that is putting that striker under some pressure. The striker itself is already under some pressure, so you are not fully cocking the weapon, so to speak. You're not fully putting the tension on the firing mechanism. Part of it is already there for you, and then what you're then doing the rest of it. You're taking up what little bit of pressure is left, but it still is somewhat of a, I'm going to use the word cocking because I don't have a technical term to put there, but when you're pulling the trigger, it is putting some pressure on, taking up some of the pressure in there and putting a little more pressure on that spring, so that once you hit the breaking point and you go ahead and release, then it's going to let that firing pin, or rather the striker, move forward and discharge the weapon. It would then go back, it would cycle, and set you up for your next one. So right now that striker is under just a little bit of pressure again. As you pull back slightly, you're taking up the rest of the pressure, and then you would discharge again. So this is what I would refer to as a striker fire system. There are a lot of different guns out there that use a similar system, such as the Springfield XD, the Glock, etc. And on those particular weapons, I wouldn't call them a single action, I wouldn't call them a double action. I have seen and read articles where they refer to them as double action. So I'm not here to call anyone, say that anyone else is wrong. I just have a hard time calling it a single or double action for purposes of the video and for purposes of clarifying the differences. So hopefully this has been a little bit educational. If there's anything that I've missed or anything that you'd like to know more, please comment down below. I appreciate you guys watching. Take care.